The shepherd kept the cows in the field every day and played the flute with joy. A fairy used to come there every day to listen to the sound of his flute. Fairy liked the tune of shepherd's flute. One day the shepherd was sitting under the tree playing his flute, and the fairy was sitting on the branch of the tree listening to his flute. At that time the shepherd played the flute and fell asleep under the tree. Two people were walking there. They find the shepherd sleeping under the tree. They want to steal a shepherd's cow on this occasion. Some of these fairies were sitting on the branch of the tree and watching. When the people started taking the shepherd's cows, the fairy came and released them. Then fairy banishes the two men through fairy's magic. Their sound wakes up the shepherd. The shepherd wakes up to see the fairy. He saw that the angel had kept two people in the Vedas. The shepherd asks fairy why he kept them. Fairy says they wanted to steal your cow. I got rid of them and then left them like this, so that they cannot escape. The shepherd is very pleased to see the cooperation of the fairy. And then the two of them became friends. I like the sound of your flute as the fairy shepherd. So the fairy asked the shepherd to play the flute. Then the shepherd heard the fairy by playing the flute. In this way the shepherd used to listen to the fairy by playing the flute every day. In this way a love affair develops between the fairy and the shepherd. They both love each other very much. Every day fairy came from the fairy kingdom to visit the shepherd. One day fairy's mother asks fairy why she left the fairy kingdom and went to the world. Fairy says that she likes the world, so she goes to the world. Fairy's mother was the queen of the fairy kingdom. One day the fairy queen, i.e. the mother of the fairy, sends a red fairy to see what her daughter does every day in the world. Then the red fairy went and saw the fairy making love to a shepherd. Then the red fairy went and told the fairy mother everything. Hearing this, fairy's mother became very angry. Then one day the fairy's mother goes to earth. He went and saw the shepherd and his daughter sitting under the fairy tree. Fairy's mother goes to them and asks fairy what is she doing here. Then the shepherd tells the fairy's mother that he loves the fairy very much and wants to marry her. Fairy's mother gets very angry with the shepherd and wants to take fairy to the fairy kingdom from there. But the fairy does not go. She wants to stay with the shepherd. She wants to marry the shepherd and stay in this world. Fairy's mother is very angry with fairy and leaves from there. Then the shepherd married fairy and they started a family together. It went on like this for a few days. One day fairy's mother was missing fairy a lot. He was feeling very sad for fairy. Then he takes the red fairy to earth to see his daughter. Ever since they left, fairy has been suffering a lot in the shepherd's family. He lives like a common man. Seeing this, fairy's mother feels a lot of pain. He wants to take his daughter back from there. So he gives the red fairy a magic fruit to feed it to the shepherd. Then the red fairy goes to the shepherd. He says, I was your wife, fairy's friend. His mother told me softly to you. He lies and feeds the fruit of that magic to the shepherd. The shepherd loses consciousness after eating the magic fruit and the red fairy leaves. After some time the shepherd regained consciousness and then he went home. The shepherd goes home and misbehaves with his fairy wife. Says a lot of bad things to him. The shepherd's father comes and helps, but the shepherd does not even listen to his father. The shepherd asks fairy to leave the house. Then fairy went out from there in her fairy form. Fairy came out from there and sat under a tree. Then the red fairy brought her mother there. The fairy tells her mother that she will go back to the fairy kingdom with them. But before that he wants to meet the shepherd's father once. Fairy goes to the shepherd's house to meet the shepherd's father. The fairy goes with the fairy mother and the red fairy. Then the shepherd becomes normal as before. He tells fairy why he behaved like that he cannot say. Fairy's mother thought to herself that she was going to feed the shepherd the magic fruit. But how did the shepherd get better so quickly? The love of shepherd and fairy was the true love of the person, so the effect of magic did not work much. Then fairy's mother revealed all the truth to fairy and said why the shepherd misbehaved with fairy. Fairy understands everything. Then fairy's mother accepts the shepherd and fairy's love. Then the shepherd and the fairy started a beautiful family together.